The Chicago White Sox made a big splash by signing Liam Hendriks in January of 2021. The Sox upgraded at an important position during what they viewed as a win-now season. Hendriks put up solid numbers in 2021 and lived up to the hype. He has continued to be a force both on and off the field this past season, as he also emerged as a vocal team leader. Hendriks did not mince words when it came to the White Sox shortcomings in 2022. Can he get healthy for a critical upcoming season?
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some time to talk off-season White Sox. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. No question about it. Liam Hendriks is electric. There's no shortage of emotion and fire. He did not have the season he wanted in 2022, but he was still an all-star and saved 37 games. Can a normal offseason help him get right for 2023? Also, the White Sox are still looking for a manager. If you missed it, our Chicago White Sox were 81-81 this past season, second place in the AL Central, finished 11 games back of the Cleveland Guardians. White Sox managerial search 2022, a new day, a new month, and a new name emerges. This was Monday morning from John Heyman, an MLB insider for MLB Network. This is what he tweeted out. White Sox got permission to interview New York Yankees bench coach Carlos Mendoza for manager opening. White Sox search has been mostly a mystery. Ozzie Guillen, Ron Washington, and Joe Espada have been mentioned, but none of those three are seen now as especially likely. Again, that was from John Heyman. I have not heard Carlos Mendoza's name. I'm not sure about you. This one came out of nowhere. Did a little research on Mendoza and found this from Brian Cashman, of course, the Yankees general manager. This is what Cashman has had to say about Mendoza. A quote, "I don't know if anyone works as hard as Carlos Mendoza, and his ceiling is extremely high. I was bracing myself if we lost him," Cashman said in March of 2021, comparing the situation to a player landing on the waiver wire. His day is coming without a doubt. He is going to manage a major league team, and I think he's going to be really good at it, end quote. Cashman also went further and said, quote, "Carlos is extremely talented, extremely organized, bilingual. The players trust him. He's a superior candidate for the next chair within the industry, and we are fortunate right now that he's here," end quote. Carlos Mendoza recently wrapped up his third season as New York's bench coach, his 14th year working with the Yankees organization. The Venezuela native served as the Yankees' Major League Quality Control and Infield coach from 2018 to 2019 before he took over for Josh Bard as bench coach leading up to the 2020 season. Mendoza, 42 years old, played 10 minor league seasons from 1997 to 2009. This from MLB Trade Rumors. This is what they had to say recently about this whole managerial search. Thus far, Chicago is known to have interviewed bench coach Miguel Cairo, Royals bench coach Pedro Grifol, Astros bench coach Joe Espada, and former Chicago bench boss Ozzie Guillen. They've also been tied to Braves third base coach Ron Washington, although it isn't known if the sides officially sat down at any point. So with Heyman's statement and with that MLB trade rumor statement, neither of those statements even mentioned Kevin Long, the man we focused a part of a previous episode on. So who knows at this point? Who knows what is really true? It seems odd to finally request an interview with Mendoza now. The New York Yankees have been eliminated for a while now. Sox could have talked to Mendoza a few weeks ago, and maybe they did. Maybe the interview is just now being leaked. Perhaps Heyman's line about the White Sox got permission is truly a thing of the past. Is Pedro Grifol still in the running? You're still hearing his name a little bit. It's kind of odd, though, that the Kansas City Royals did not hire their bench coach and went outside the organization to hire a different bench coach. Maybe the White Sox are really just waiting until the World Series is over to make their announcement. Who knows? I feel like every day there's a new name or a new path to follow. Some more stuff from Scott Merkin. This was per his latest newsletter regarding the managerial search. This is what he had to say. It won't be Houston's bench coach, Joe Espada. It might be Pedro Grifol. It might be Kevin Long. It might be Ozzie Guillen, who hasn't managed in a major league dugout since 2012. But reboots seem to be popular in the entertainment industry, so why not in Chicago? I stress for what seems like the fourth or fifth time how this hire most importantly requires a team focus and the ability to work collaboratively with the front office, the coaching staff, and everyone else involved. More from Merkin when he asks the question, is 2023 a must-win season? He says there's no doubt every season is a must-win for a team with the talent possessed by the White Sox. But coming off two playoff wins during the 2020 and 2021 seasons and missing out on the postseason in 2022 at a disappointing 81-81, the White Sox need to open this competitive window wide following the rebuild. That's Merkin from his latest newsletter. So the more I think I know what's going on, the more confused I get. I don't know about you. It sure seems like the White Sox are truly doing an exhaustive managerial search, or they are just wanting us to believe that they are. For all we know, the manager was picked a long time ago, and all these rumors about different candidates and interviews is simply window dressing. I do agree with Scott Merkin, though. Time is of the essence, and this competitive window must be taken advantage of now. There will be a lot placed on the shoulders of the next White Sox manager. The White Sox targeted bullpen help, and they definitely got it with a huge Liam Hendriks signing in early 2021. I'm going to tell you why his signing was such a major boost. More on that in a moment. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Liam Hendriks, the shelf life for an MLB closer is limited. Recreating the magic year after year is difficult. You almost need to constantly be reinventing your arsenal because staying ahead of your competition is paramount. Leveling out is just as bad as a regression. Closers, though, are a different breed. And when you can find a closer that you can rely on, he's worth every penny. The White Sox look to address their closer role during the 2020 offseason and went after the biggest name on the market. Liam Hendriks signed with the White Sox in mid-January of 2021. That was a huge deal. Tons of excitement with that signing. Here were the terms. Hendriks received a $1 million signing bonus, $11 million in 2021, $13 million in 2022. He's set to receive $14 million in 2023, and then the $15 million option / buyout for 2024. The option will automatically vest if Hendriks is traded. So during the rebuild, the White Sox, of course, had no need for a high-priced closer. If there was an effective arm that emerged out of spring training and proved his worth, the Sox had another asset to flip for prospects. During that 60-game season of 2020, the White Sox peeled off that rebuild label and made the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Despite winning the first game of that best of 3 series, the Sox lost to the Oakland Athletics, but got an up-close and personal look at closer Liam Hendriks. After bringing Tony La Russa in late October of 2020, the Sox seemed to prioritize the bullpen. La Russa had quite the history, of course, with managing a bullpen, especially the role of a closer. So it was no surprise that the White Sox wanted to get better at that position in 2021. The rebuild was over and the competitive window was cracked open. The Sox targeted the best closer on the market and were able to acquire him. The Hendriks signing was a very big deal. In 2020, Hendriks won the Mariano Rivera AL Reliever of the Year. And in 2021, his first year with the White Sox, he won the award again. Hendriks can definitely give up the long ball and sometimes relies too heavily on a straight fastball. But Liam Hendriks was extremely effective in 2021. He appeared in 69 games and pitched 71 innings, had 113 strikeouts, and led the AL with 38 saves. Forget the numbers for a second and just think about how exciting Liam Hendriks is on the mound. The raw emotion after every strikeout, especially if the game ends, that's must-see TV. Hendriks has not shied away from being vocal about what's happening with the White Sox. There were no shortage of sound bites and quotes from Hendriks about this past season. Like so many other White Sox players, Liam Hendriks dealt with injuries in 2022. I'm going to tell you why he should be back at full strength come spring training. More on that in a moment. Liam Hendriks had another all-star season in 2022, and his numbers were a little off, but he still had 37 saves for an underperforming White Sox team. Hendriks went on the injured list for 3 weeks in June to rest a flexor strain, and that issue may have prevented him from being stretched out to perhaps a second inning during outings late in the season. In a September article by James Fegan of The Athletic, Hendriks said this, quote, "It's not quite capable of being able to sit down and go back out right now. It's unfortunate because that's what I pride myself on. I know that was one of the biggest selling points when I came here was the fact that I could go multiple innings. I could give it as much as I could, go multiple innings, and be available the next day. It's unfortunately not kind of where we're at right now. This year has been a tough year physically for me," end quote. So from what Hendriks has said, it seems like a regular offseason to rehab is something he's looking forward to. It's not that Hendriks ran out of gas. It's that he battled injury and was not able to be the type of reliever that he prided himself on. Something else that Hendriks said, quote, "A number of things have gone into this year that haven't been up to my standards. It's been a little bit of whack a lot of the year, but there's no excuse for not being ready," end quote. There's no question that Liam Hendriks has brought a different energy to this White Sox team and organization. He has made an impact on and off the field. He was the 2022 White Sox nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award. Liam and his wife, Christy, started the South Slida Society, as they have been outspoken supporters of the LGBTQ plus community and have spoken out against gun violence in Chicago. He's also partnered with organizations focused on animal welfare. During his time with the White Sox, Hendriks has regularly supplied meals to local, minority, and family-owned small businesses and even essential workers during the public health crisis. Getting healthy and staying healthy is an ongoing theme. Hopefully, he can have a normal offseason to rehab, and whatever was bothering him does not affect spring training and the start of 2023. Hendriks seems so dedicated to his craft, using cutting-edge technology like Codify and heat maps to help him best attack hitters. There's no way I can question his desire to win or his ability to prepare. Hendriks is a premium talent and has emerged as a team leader as well as a fan favorite. He's entertaining, always available for a quote, and continually strives to get better. When he's off, he tends to give up the long ball at the least opportune times, like that Baltimore game after Adam Engel committed that error in left field. But when he's on, he strikes out the side with a nasty slider and overpowering fastball. That's the life of a closer. Sometimes it's feast or famine. With Hendriks, though, there's been more feast, and I think he will play an important role in 2023 as the White Sox look to return to the top of the AL Central. Folks, thank you so much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I'll continue to look at player performances like A.J. Pollock and examine off-season White Sox scenarios. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.